There have been many examples over the years of when a band will bring in a special guest musician or two bands or artists will work together to make something special. This list is going to take a look at the top 10 best collaboration songs in rock. Whether it's a duet, band bringing in another singer, or two groups working together, there have been many examples of rock songs standing out when musicians put their creative minds together. This list counts down some of the best. As this is a top 10, I want to clarify some house rules. Number 1, only one band or artist per entry. That way it's not the same band or artist over and over again, because otherwise, David Bowie would be on a lot of this list. Number 2, to be on the list, a song has to be a collaboration by bands, artists, etc. that were only meant as a one-time deal. That means no supergroups or examples like Temple of the Dog, where they bring in a special guest artist in Eddie Vedder and he becomes a permanent member of the band. That's just how I'm going to separate this out. Otherwise, rest assured, Hunger Strike would have been on here. Number 3, it's just one list on collaboration songs. It's not meant to be super serious. If your favorite collaboration song isn't on my top 10, leave a comment, let people know what you love. Otherwise, you know how top 10s work by now. Let's get started. Number 10. To start off the list, we go back to the Prince of Darkness and his duet with the rock goddess Lita Ford, creating a rock ballad that stands out from a decade filled with those ballads, big hair, and cheesy, over-the-top performances. When you involve Ozzy, though, it almost feels as if he's showing off to all the youth how it's done. As great as Ozzy is on this performance, it's Lita Ford that nails it here. She makes this song fun to listen to. It is a bit of a stereotype 80s rock ballad, but it's amazing, and you really feel good when listening to it, even though it's kind of a sad love song if you think about it. Released as a single from Lita Ford's 1988 album Lita, this track would be the highest charting song from Ozzy's solo career and ranked high on Billboard. The acoustic guitar work from the quieter builds leading up to Lita Ford giving a career-defining and iconic solo are as nostalgic as Ecto Cooler and Max Headroom from the 80s. Long before Ozzy was featured on Post Malone songs, he was lending his voice and presence to many other musicians throughout the generations, and when he teamed with Lita Ford, he tugged on the heartstrings of every dark-hearted metal fan. In a good way. Metal fans need to be knocked down a peg or two to remember that not everything is death and more death. If the guitars don't hook you in, then Lita and Ozzy's style of singing on how love can last definitely will. Lita is a queen, and this is another song proving why Ozzy is a legend regardless of what time frame he works in.
Close my eyes forever.
Number 9. One man who does not get enough credit for working with fellow rock and metal groups is Rob Halford. Through all the ups and downs of Judas Priest, it was back in 2017, less than a year before their amazing return in Firepower, Halford lent his legendary vocals to be a part in This Moment's Black Wedding. So you have Maria Brink, who's capable of breaking glass with her voice, and Rob Halford, who is still recognized as one of the best metal vocalists ever. I have a feeling when they put these two in the studio together, they probably blew out some speakers. This take on Billy Idol's White Wedding feels like a dark predecessor to what Idol started, and I love it. Maria's growl, along with her singing, both feel like they belong here. From the opening piano notes, the amazing choruses, everything is vibrant and loud. The bridge with some heavy headbang riffs from Chris and Randy add that extra oomph that have made Black Wedding a concert staple for In This Moment. There have been several guest vocalists for In This Moment's live shows, but let's be honest, Rob Halford can't be outdone. At the time of this recording, Rob Halford is 68 years old and can still put many metal singers to shame. And can probably beat most of them up now that I think about it. Many people haven't given In This Moment a chance over the years because they only see them as a stage show or a gimmick. Well, this is the song to try out if you're curious. Not to mention, when the singer of Painkiller is present, it's worth your time. Number 8. Just to put this out there, anyone that says Apocalyptica is not rock is the most pathetic of elitist music snobs. Get out of here with that. Sorry, just had to get that off my chest. Apocalyptica stormed into the rock world due to viral music covering Metallica, but it's when they started creating their own songs and bringing in guest vocalists that everyone realized just how special these Finnish virtuosos are. After many successful albums and collaborations with other musicians, it was back in 2010 on their 7th album, Seventh Symphony, that they brought in Shinedown frontman Brent Smith. Through all the various vocal accompaniments that Apocalyptica had used over the years before bringing in a permanent vocalist, I feel that the baritone of Brent Smith adds the perfect sound to go with their style. Brent's ability to raise his volume within the same octave adds so much to this delivery, and when put with classically trained musicians, it creates something unique in a world filled with chugga-chug riffs and butt rock groans. The late 2000s and early 2010s had a ton of butt rock. And then 4 Finnish musicians tried to class the place up. That's not an easy task. Apocalyptica is a spectacle. Brent Smith has a voice that just about any rock fan can admire. Not strong enough is that deep, brooding song where you just sit back and listen to the dark tones take over you. A great choice as a featured singer for a group of men who add a touch of class with their intensity. Number 7. I love when cover songs add something new, and in the case of Rolling Stone's Gimme Shelter, Stone Sour with the help of Lzzy Hale crushed this song, and if I'm being honest, I enjoy this version over the original. I made my top 10 best cover songs video years ago. Well, take this song as an honorary number 11. I love it to death, and I probably would not have found it without SiriusXM. The guitar work from Joss and Tooch on this track is a great example of how to take the original notes and elevate them. The harmonica drives that classic rock sound home hard. Then you get to the vocals where Corey sounds fierce and heavy while Lizzie soars, both in the background and when she takes the lead. Everything about this works. This cover comes off Stone Sour's EP Straight Outta Burbank, and while many bands have covered this song over the years, Stone Sour and Lzzy Hale added that extra something special to make it amazing. The vocal dynamic and harmonizing between Corey and Lizzie seal the deal here, and I feel this is a collaboration that should get more attention. The individual performances from Corey Taylor and Lzzy Hale would have been enough, but putting them together made this something unique and fantastic. I love it. Many people, including myself, sometimes forget about EPs, but Buried and Straight Outta Burbank is proof of why you should pay attention, because Stone Sour and Lizzie nailed it here. Number 6. After the Beatles broke up, the world of music was still revolving around the Fab Four and their own individual projects, and it was at various live shows in the early 70s that George Harrison, one of the greatest guitarists ever, enlisted the help of one of the other greatest guitarists ever, Eric Clapton. And that's a hill I'm willing to die on defending that statement. George may not have been given the most attention from the Beatles, but I still think he was the most talented. Then add Eric Clapton as a second lead guitar, and how could you not love the results? If not for YouTube bots, I would have played the entire section of this song from 2 legendary guitar players. It's something special that you need to sit down and listen to. What's crazy is that Clapton wasn't even at 100% as he was going through recovery at the time, and many of these performances weren't always his proud moments, as he's even said, including the famous concert for Bangladesh, that he wasn't really fond of the guitar he chose. But if this song can sound this amazing while one of the musicians is not in a great state of mind, then it only speaks more to that man's ability. Harrison and Clapton fed off each other as if they have a hive mind. While My Guitar Gently Weeps might have been on the Beatles' White Album originally, but it's when Harrison collaborated with Clapton to extend the guitar work and jam off into transcendental space that this track becomes even more legendary. It's been roughly 40 years since George Harrison was playing this song at all his solo shows, and while many people have tried to cover it, his work with Eric Clapton still stands out as the best performance of While My Guitar Gently Weeps. And to every other artist that's trying to cover this song, stop. And stop trying to cover the Beatles. You're doomed to fail. Number 5. The early 90s saw a lot of change in rock and metal for most bands. While some bands would change their style like Metallica, or some genres would be left behind like hair metal and turn for grunge, you had other bands embracing change and willing to work together on something special while keeping their own identity. Case in point, Anthrax and Public Enemy. Back in the late 80s, Public Enemy released Bring the Noise, and it did well. But then Anthrax got involved years later, and it brought 2 different fan bases together. When the concept of Public Enemy reworking the song was offered by Anthrax, Chuck D didn't take it seriously. It wasn't until after they got together in studio that he realized it made too much sense to make. Hearing Scott Ian's guitar wail through the song along with a deep low rhythm section moved this song so much faster than the original version of Bring the Noise. VH1 even included this version of Bring the Noise on their list of top 40 greatest metal songs. Not only did it stand out at a time where different genres of music were exploding across the United States, it had an extremely long shelf life, being used in many soundtracks soundtracks and later video games. Whether you were around in 1991 to hear this collaboration come out, or you first heard it in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, you know this is a fun song to listen to. Thrash metal and rap. On paper, it sounds like it would be a mess, but it ends up being as good together as peanut butter and chocolate. Sprinkle a little Anthrax on anything and it makes the results better. Don't take that quote out of context, or try it at home. Number 4. I talked about this song in an older video on White Pony, which is one of my all-time favorite albums. I can't stress enough that for alt metal and many rock fans in general, putting Maynard James Keenan with Deftones is like getting every present you could want for your birthday all at once and more. Passenger is cherished now, and it was a big surprise on White Pony because they didn't highlight it at all. It was a hidden gem on an album that blew a lot of minds when it came out. This song was part of that nu metal, alt metal genre-bending style that was everywhere in the year 2000, and it was one of the best examples of how good this sound could be. According to Cheeto, it was a spur-of-the-moment thing also when writing the music for the album, and Maynard just happened to want to help out. I mean, when Maynard says he wants to do something with you, you run with it no matter what it is. There is such a fluid build with the guitars and ambient effects, and that infectious rhythm and breathing sound gets in your head. The soft flow breezes by and you are swept up in the moment before Maynard cuts loose. Both Chino and Maynard sound fantastic playing off each other, while Stephen Carpenter's guitar riffs giving the song that extra fuel to tie this gift in a nice little package. Adding Maynard to Deftones really is like adding a scoop of vanilla ice cream to a brownie. Two awesome things, but when put together, made even more incredible. I highly recommend you get some headphones and listen to this song in entirety. You won't regret it. Number 3. Some of you might be arguing why this belongs on a rock list, but for me, it's a no-brainer. Gorillaz and Damon Albarn are no strangers to working with other musicians and groups. That was evident from their self-titled release back in 2001. Years later, with Gorillaz' amazing sophomore release Demon Days came a single that transcended all genres and was instantly a favorite of music fans and Feel Good Inc. The addition of De La Soul sounding strong and at times maniacal adds greatly to what was already a strong track. The soft acoustic bridge verses leading to the rap and one of the best bassline riffs of the decade. Feel Good Inc. is more than just a song title, as you really feel good when listening to this song. I remember when this song and music video came out back in 2005. MTV even started playing it. MTV for about a week went back to playing music just a little before they abandoned that and went back to just showing real-world reruns. It's a jovial track that isn't crazy or over the top with speed and energy. It's a groove all the way through. Feel Good Inc. is listed as Gorillaz' most successful single, charting like crazy around the world and going gold and platinum in various countries. An animated band with a hip-hop group jumping in. Excellent and creative rhythms and lyrics you can never get out of your head. All of these elements in less than 4 minutes through a song proving rock and alternative styles can work seamlessly with other genres. And speaking of groups from different genres working together, Number 2. For those of you who are saying this doesn't count as rock, yes it does. Shut up. Back in the 80s, Walk This Way blew everyone's mind, partly because the original song off of Aerosmith's 1975 album Toys in the Attic had already been released, charted, been a hit, and forgotten about for years in the 70s. It wasn't until Run DMC started rapping over a looped section of Walk This Way in the mid-80s that the hip-hop group got curious. Producer Rick Rubin pulled out the entire song from Aerosmith, and back then, Run DMC didn't even know who Aerosmith was. But after Rubin's suggestions and initial protests from some of the hip-hop group, the song was re-released as a collaboration, and this led to a beautiful thing. By Run DMC rapping over this Aerosmith track, it revitalized Aerosmith's career while bringing more attention from the world to Run DMC. Everyone won something out of this. 11 years later, in 1986, the single Walk This Way was re-released and charted even higher than it did in the past decade, reaching number 4 on Billboard's Top 100. That iconic guitar riff was brought back to life, and Steven Tyler's screeching the chorus while Run DMC go back and forth in their verbiage. I honestly feel that this collaboration remake is better than the original and does more for both groups. The song changed the game back in the 80s, helping unite two genres and proved a song can be successful twice.
Walk This Way has stood the test of time as a great song to blast and sing along with, especially when you're trying to make that Steven Tyler face. Before we get to number 1, if you haven't done so already, please hit that like button below. That way YouTube knows that this video is something people actually enjoy and helps push it to new viewers in the search algorithm. That was my way of getting viewer engagement and stretching this out to bring more attention before the number 1 spot.
Number 1.
Under Pressure is a big reason of why I made this list in the first place.
Queen, one of the most cherished rock bands of all time and setting a gold standard for stadium rock music. David Bowie, a musician who transcended through decades as a unique entity and someone who refused to be shackled by genre classing. Put them together in 1981 when both Queen and Bowie were already on top of the world, and you can guarantee something fantastic. From the iconic opening bass line to scat singing through improv and the absolutely fantastic bravados from Freddie and David, this song is a masterpiece. The vocal pairing from Freddie's high tone to Bowie's smooth, deep delivery still resonates almost 4 decades later. This is another example of a song happening by accident, where David Bowie originally was going to do backing vocals on a different Queen song, but it didn't work out. They then got together in a jam session and all contributed to Under Pressure, with David Bowie having a big part in the lyric writing. The songwriting process was not easy though. According to Brian May, recalling about the song, it was hard because you had 4 very precocious boys and David, who was precocious enough for all of us.
Yeah, I can totally see that. Can you imagine the sass and sarcastic backlash between Freddie Mercury and David Bowie back and forth in the studio? Yikes.
The hard work paid off though, as it's part of music royalty. Under Pressure charted for a long time throughout the world, went platinum in the UK and double platinum in the US, and had been featured in more TV shows, movie soundtracks, and even commercials than I can list off. The way I see it, this is not only a unison of 2 cherished names, but proof that through happenstance, and admittedly a lot of patience and at times frustration in the process, something amazing can come together, and the world of music is blessed more than it could have ever been if either Queen or David Bowie decided to do a song like this on their own. 2 giant personalities with 2 amazing voices. They may be gone, but this song is a shining example of what they could do, and why collaborations can be something special. And that was a look at some of the best collaboration songs in rock. What's your favorite collaboration or track featuring a special guest? Leave a comment and let everyone know. Huge thanks to my patrons and a special thanks to Brandon Barenfeld. You can help keep Rocks rolling by supporting the channel on Patreon while getting perks like voting on upcoming videos and getting videos and podcast episodes early. Please subscribe, it helps a ton to get this channel pushed by YouTube search algorithms for suggestions. You can check out my concert photography on Instagram, and you can keep up to date with Rocks on Facebook and Twitter.